All right. Welcome to the board meeting of the NPRSA. Today is the 21st of September. And pursuant to Governor Inslee's Stay Home, Stay Healthy Proclamation 20 to 25, and in an effort to curtail the spread of the COVID-19 virus, this board meeting will be conducted remotely. Members of the public are encouraged to attend and participate in the meeting remotely, as described in more detail below. Have there been any public comments? Oh, sorry. Let's do a roll call to see who is present.
Okay. Board Chair Bess Campbell.
Present.
Vice Chair McNeil.
Present.
Board Member Marshall.
Present.
Board Member Zorns. Board Member Dembowski. Board Member Perry. And Board Member Mead. So we do not have quorum, so we cannot take action on any items in the agenda, but we can hear presentations and receive reports.
All right. Moving on, have we received any public comment prior to the meeting?
We have not received any public comment.
Okay. Because we don't have a quorum, we have to skip over the consent agenda, and we'll start in. Actually, before we start in, there was a request to amend the agenda to drop in between discussion items A and B, an item about, what was it that Christine wanted to add?
We're going to add approval of a HVAC system replacement at the Health and Wellness Center.
Okay, so that'll be between items A and B. So,
Yes.
Okay, so that is the new amended agenda, if everybody is okay with that. And then why don't we start with reports and the capital repairs update?
Hello. Barbara, can you give me control, or do you want to share the screen?
I just saw my screen share. You should be able to start yours.
It is not. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I have too many screens. There's too many screens. Okay. Can you guys see my screen now?
A little small.
Awesome. It's a little small. Let's see if I can make it bigger for you guys. That's better.
That's better.
Okay. Better. All right. So I sent this out to you all the first week of August as requested, and I want to start using this graph to go through our capital repairs report so you guys can see the project, the cost estimates, design, where we're at in the project, and then also what we have been invoiced to date. And we'll be sending these out to you guys, to you all in every agenda packet. It will be updated for you. And so tier 1, I wanted to go through these really fast. So most of the tier 1 projects were approved in the capital repairs plan, the first initial capital repairs plan. As you look through these, we completed the water heater replacement at the senior center and the health and wellness center. The installation of the ionizers at the senior center and the health and wellness center. We're currently closing out the bridge rehab, repairs and rehab. There'll be a closeout report later on in the presentation. And then the flooring at the senior center, we're actually starting that project on the October 3rd. So very excited about that. And we completed the flooring at the Health and Wellness Center. And as you can see here, we had an initial cost estimate of 120. And then the current cost estimate was 109. So we came in under budget there, and there were no design costs because I actually project managed that project. We had the floor drains install at the senior center that was completed. Cancel. And then we had the HVAC repair and BAS upgrade at the senior center that was completed. And then we are looking at completing the bridge handrail. And I wanted to talk to you all about that real fast. So the bridge handrails, we want to move forward with giving a complete bridge refurbish. And so we went out, we're utilizing our new job contract to procure services from contractors for this. And let's see, sorry, I need to move this over. I really have too many screens available. And so we are looking at, there are a few options. So I just really want to get feedback. This really isn't anything that you guys are voting on, but I really want to get feedback because there are a few options. And so we have option one, which is to repaint the handrail. So it's basically doing some prep work and then going over 2 coats of paint and then a clear coat on top. Their prep work is going to be basically just wiping down because we do have that lead paint on those handrails. So there's nothing invasive that we can do as far as like sanding or anything like that. So we had one contractor give us a bid at $234,000. We had a second contractor come give us a bid at $94,000. And then our third contractor did not submit a bid. There's a big difference between the 2 contractors. And it's a lot of work. I mean, that is, the handrails stretch over the size of a football field. And we're looking at also time. It's very time invasive to, there's not an option to spray the handrails. It has to be all hand paint. Just because with the encapsulation not being there, you know, paint spray it can get on things far, far away. So the $94,000 option or bid, that sounds very appealing, but that also came from the contractor that worked on the bridge project that we're currently on. And as we know, we went 5 months over the deadline. That completion date was supposed to be end of April, and here we are in September just now, accepting final completion. So those are things that we need to think about, right? So option 2 is to just replace the handrails with a new powder-coated railing system, $298,000 for new handrail. But this does mitigate the lead paint that we have existing. It's a less impact to the tenant because we don't have people out there hand painting rails for months on end. And then it's guaranteed to be finished by the end of the year. So time-wise, that is, there's a benefit there. But we do have these 2 very competing cost estimates for repainting. So I know that we can't vote on anything. I don't even know if we can have a conversation around it, but I would like to hear your feedback so that way I can, I guess, make a better informed decision.
There we go. Anybody
Right.
want to start this one off with some questions? James, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Cherry. Did you say that for the new handrail, did you say the word new for 298,000?
Correct.
Okay, so they're gonna replace and dispose of all the existing handrail and put new handrail up for 298,000?
Correct.
Okay. And the handrail that they would be replacing or installing, is it the same style as the current handrail?
It is not, we really haven't gotten to that place. I don't know if it's possible to get the same style, but that's something I can look into.
Okay. So obviously there is a big difference between the two bidders, and without actually seeing the physical bids and what's included in the scope of work, it's hard to gauge what, methodology, what one's going to do over the other. But I would say that if you were to look at it in totality, we'd want to know a little bit more about the new railing, and maintenance obviously is something that we really want to take a look at long-term and into the future. And there's newer methods of manufacturing railing today that might not have been around when the railing was first created, that would help keep the maintenance costs down in the future. Maybe not painting, maybe powder coating as an example.
Okay.
So
Sorry, this is powder coated. So these railings for the 298 are new powder coated handrails.
right, so that is a big plus, a big bonus. You're not constantly going through and repainting. So to me, I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about the 234 versus 94 scope of work painting. What type of warranty we would have on that paint, the duration of that. Typically is like 5 years or something like that, what that looks like. And then I'd like to just balance that out to see if we did pay for 298,000, what type of warranty we would have on that, and what the maintenance long-term looks like on that at 298, because it could be that replacing the rail at 298, which would be a higher dollar amount, may be long-term more cost-effective and fiscally responsible for us.
I do want to point out that because of the, I don't know if I made this very clear, because of the lead paint, and there are several layers of paint on the handrail, wherever there's chipping, there's going to be, it's going to be visible, because we're not able to sand that paint down in the prep, because it's not encapsulated. And to do that, I mean, we would be going back to the beginning of this bridge project where we're encapsulating. So the look, just the aesthetic in itself in the new handrail, and the new powder coated handrail is going to be better. But I just want to make it clear that when it's painted over, if we choose the painting option, you're still going to be able to see like the chips. It's just going to be a solid color.
The other thing we should mention to your question about warranty is there's going to be a much better warranty on the new material than on refurbishing the existing handrails, because painters' warranties usually do not cover issues with the existing paint. So if the new paint flakes off because the substrate comes off, then that's probably not going to be covered under warranty based on what we were told with the main structure of the bridge. So we'll get much better, much better warranty if we do new.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why we went with sandblasting the entire underbelly of the bridge, is because the paint manufacturer wouldn't warranty the prep work, because we weren't actually going to prep. We were only spot prepping. And so we went with it so that we can get the warranty with sandblasting the whole underside of the bridge. All right,
So
are there any other, oh, go ahead, sorry.
So are there concerns about if, just to play the devil's advocate, if we repainted, are there concerns about that paint chipping and sort of creating the problem of, a very thick layer of paint that has lead in it? Is that a concern, even though it's going to be warranted? Once you find a little chip in the paint, I mean, it's just going to immediately flake off. So are there concerns about, I don't know, accelerating the chipping process, even though they're going to prep? They can't prep as well as they would want to. So is there anything that they have said that their paint would mitigate the lead paint loss? But that, at least with the cheaper bit, obviously, not the powder coated.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been any conversation around mitigating the new paint mitigating chipping. And also just to point out that the lead paint, we say lead paint, but there was very minimal amount of lead found in the paint. But just because it came up, we have to obviously, work around that. But yeah, I don't think that if we went forward with painting, that would be an issue at all.
It's worth noting, though, that the paint products that we've been discussing using to repaint the existing railings would sort of encapsulate the lead and basically reduce its toxicity so that it's no longer an environmental hazard, basically.
Well, so I'm looking at the budget here, and by a miracle in these times when supply chain is difficult, and I know Christine York does the project manager on it, we have some savings for the flooring replacement. Are there any other savings that we have in the budget that could offset the additional cost for the powder coat rails?
Yes, we do actually. Our approved capital repairs budget for 2022 included the grease trap replacement and work on the bioswale.
Mhm.
And both of those projects have been deferred indefinitely at this point due to the bioswale kind of being okay, and a request from the tenant that we hold off on the grease trap replacement until we've addressed more pressing concerns. So if you take all the numbers of the stuff that's left to do, even if we went with the more expensive replacement option, we would still be ahead $100,000 of where we expected to be at the end of this year in terms of our capital repairs expenses.
James, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, Gene Zorns is actually in the attendees.
All right, do we have Jeannie on here? There we go. There she is. Hi, Jeannie, you made it. Thank you so much.
Hi, I've been eavesdropping and now I got the mute and the unmute button, so I'm good. I'll mute myself.
Okay. So now we have a quorum of council members.
Yes.
Do we want to summarize, I guess, a little bit where we are with the bridge handrails? So Jeannie can be brought up to speed on that one.
Yes, so we have a few options for handrails. We have, the first option is repainting. We have a contractor that gave a bid at $234,000 and a second contractor at $94,000. And then we have another option outside of repainting, that is to replace the handrails with a new powder coated railing, which comes in at $298,000. And so we've just been discussing kind of the points between the differences between the three options. well, the two options, and then I guess there were some questions about warranty with the paint, and then also the differences between the two cost estimates.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
Yeah, just a quick clarifying question. I heard James ask some questions about durability. And so, you know, I'm going to be inclined for whatever's going to be the most durable. What was it? What was the last option? Like powder coating? Does that give a better grip for people?
No, I wouldn't say a better grip, but the I guess the longevity, and to Councilmember McNeil's point, it is less maintenance in the future, so we wouldn't have to repaint, and there will be no, I guess, the question of the lead paint that is on the current handrail that mitigates that with the new rail.
Oh, okay. Okay. And the lead paint, or is that being removed, or we're going to seal it up?
No, so if we go with painting, the paint, we're just encapsulating with 3 layers of paint. So we wouldn't be doing
Perfect.
any removal of lead paint.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Thank you.
Joe, do you have any opinions you want to share with us, please? Well, I'm inclined to lean towards the 298,000 only because if we could get a newer, better product with a better warranty, again, I think we would have to see the warranty to see if that's accurate. But I don't like the idea of painting over something and having it still look chipped. It's a lot of money for something to look substandard, and for a few dollars more to have something I think that would look better and be a little bit longer lived, perhaps with a better warranty. I would be inclined towards that, especially since we have a little bit of savings in our budget right now. But I'm anxious to hear what other people have to say. So James, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would tend to agree. I did, however, have a question on the 234 scope of work. So if we're replacing the rail, that's a brand new rail, they're manufacturing a brand new rail, then they're powder coating that rail. The question I would have is there an opportunity or an option to remove the rail that's there, sandblast it, and powder coat it? Because in some cases, manufacturing of the rail is the bulk of the cost for the materials. The powder coating piece is not as costly. So I would just have a question: would there be an opportunity for us to reuse the rail that we currently have by taking it, sandblasting it, and powder coating it, or is it in such poor condition that they would not be able to do that? Therefore, if let's just say it was half the cost, to me that might be an option or an opportunity we should probably take a look at. But then you also have temporary railings and things like that. So just kind of thinking outside the box, just want to double check to make sure, is there an opportunity to reuse the railing we currently have with the sandblast powder coat opportunity or option?
So we spoke to our contractor, Forma, and then we also spoke to Andre at Cornerstone about this option, and it just didn't really seem feasible as far as what it would take for them to remove the railing and then take it to get sandblasted and powder coated. It seemed like the timeline would be drawn out. And then to your point of temporary railing, I'm not sure with the, and this is something I'm saying out of just what I've experienced with Zorna and Judy over at the Health and Wellness and the Senior Center. Some of their standards that they have to keep the building, I don't know if that would affect that, and Nathan, you can jump in here if need be, but I'm not sure if temporary railing with that demographic is going to be something that their coding will allow. And so that is kind of why I shied away from that. And also with the timeline, Andre let me know that it actually takes quite a bit of time for them to sandblast and powder coat a section of railing, so it would kind of draw it out. And I know we wanted to get this bridge project tied up and done by the end of the year, so we kind of shied away from that. But I can definitely, if that's something that you guys want me to pursue, I can definitely provide more information on it.
Yeah, I'm always cautious about costs, so it may not at the end of the day be the best option, but at least knowing what that cost would be, we can at least say that we at least looked at that opportunity. You know, the difference between 234 and 298 is not that significant, but it is significant. But the difference between 94 and 298 is pretty significant. So just kind of making sure that we all kind of get the information to make the best decision. That's just kind of how I'm thinking about it. I trust the process. I just wanted to see if we could at least know that information.
So how soon, Christine, do you need information from us about approval for which option for the railing we want? Would we have time before our meeting, or do we need something tonight?
No, well, if I need to go back to the drawing board and get cost estimates on powder coating the existing, it really is up to you all and how fast you want this to get done. It's already a stretch right now with the weather on the repainting to get it done by the end of the year, starting, you know, within the next couple of weeks, just because, you know, it has to be dry to paint. So, I mean, we might have to pick it up at the beginning of spring. It just, I probably wouldn't be able to get you guys numbers on the powder coating the existing probably for another 2 weeks, just to be fair to their subcontractors. A 2-week period is usually pretty standard on a cost estimate.
Jeannie, go ahead.
Okay, so my husband is eavesdropping here. So he's doing the driving, and he asked a question. Do you mind if he just speaks up? Do you mind if he just weighs in? He was asking about a plastic wrap.
I don't have any. Does anybody in the audience have any concerns about Jeannie's husband weighing in? Nope.
Well,
all right, go right ahead.
It's open public. It's open public, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't exactly understand what you're saying about a plastic wrap. Are you thinking, Bruce, that there's something that you can get preformed for that, or a vinyl plastic wrap? Plastic wrap that can be wrapped around what kind of railings, Bruce? Metal? Are you? I'm sorry, I came in late. Is this a round metal railing, or is this a flat railing? You know,
it's round.
I'm sorry, I talked over you.
Oh, it's fine. It's round. No, we didn't really look at vinyl wrapping. It is something that we typically do on commercial buildings. But I mean, if that's something that you want to explore, I can do that. I can look into it if you.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, because I know I'm sorry to ask you to do that, because I know we're up against, you know, the rainy season on this. So I'd like exploring for options, but if this railing is coming to its end of life, we may not have that luxury of, you know, waiting it out till the rainy season is over. So I would really appreciate your opinion on weighing in on that. Do we have the luxury of waiting?
Yeah, the rails are structurally sound. They're just chipped up and rusting, but they work. there's nothing wrong with the structure of the railing. So,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it really depends on what you guys want. You know, we can look at other options. If we want to wait, we can. We're just, like you said, Councilmember Zorns, we're pushing up against this rainy season. And so it's kind of like one of those, if we're going to move, we got to move now, or we're going to wait until the springtime when we get better weather.
Okay, well, this is, you know, this is not in my wheelhouse, construction. James weighing in on that, your boots on the ground with that, weighing in on that. I'm just kind of waiting to see what the consensus of because all of the comments that are being made, it makes sense to me. But I don't want to weigh in any particular way, because I don't, you know, construction is not my jam, but I also don't want to be wasteful of money. So
I think
having
yeah,
some discussion here is great.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, as Councilmember McNeil has said, that we need to, I think it makes sense to go ahead and get more information on the powder coating of the existing rails. And what's nice about either or is that if we're not going to paint, then really the weather is not that detrimental. So I can definitely provide that information in November, and we can still probably move forward with replacing the rails in November, December timeframe if we choose to either replace new or refurbish, as in powder coat the existing handrail as it is.
Okay, and we're not totally frustrating you doing that?
No, my
Okay.
job.
Good.
No, it's just making some phone calls and getting some quotes and estimates from contractors. So not a biggie. It's just a little time consuming, but it's
Okay,
fine.
thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna chime in and say, it sounds like everybody is pretty much in the wheelhouse of let's not paint. That doesn't sound like it has the most longevity. So if we're really not gonna be at the mercy of the weather, coming back and getting the estimate of powder coating versus replacing entirely, I think it's entirely prudent. James, thank you so much for, you know, putting on your hat of construction and letting us know that these are some options that we have. And, you know, with any luck, it would be a little bit more affordable and we could put that money towards other projects within the grant. So at the November meeting, Christine, you think you're gonna be able to come back with an estimate of refurbish versus replacement powder coating rails? Okay.
Correct.
That sounds like, doesn't really, do we want to vote on that? Do we need just consensus? James, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, Chair, consensus. Thank you, Chair. Consensus would probably be good.
Yes.
One thing I would just like to add to the conversation, if we do make the decision to replace the rail, hopefully the board would have an opportunity to maybe improve the look aesthetically of the rail or have some weigh in on that aesthetically. Maybe there's an element that we can add that would look a little cooler or whatever you want to call it, aesthetically more pleasing, or maybe the senior center wants to weigh in on that as well. So just a thought.
Yeah, I can bring it. Yeah, in November I'll bring a few options of design for new rails.
I would never have thought about the aesthetic pleasure of a handrail, but if we can make it, if that's an option, if that is indeed a thing, I think more options are a great opportunity for us to, you know, talk about something fun that's not necessarily a bioswale or anything like that. So we'll come back in November. It sounds like everyone is pretty much on board with powder coat is the way to go. Whether we replace the entire rail or we just take the rail off and powder coat, TBD. And of course, the aesthetic pleasures of that handrail. So Christine, is that enough of a consensus for you?
Yep, good to go.
All right. All right.
All right. Sorry, I'm not finished with my report.
I was going to say, do you want to continue because we're only probably halfway through it.
All right, so we are into tier. You guys can still see my screen, right? Okay, so tier 2. So tier 2.
Could you scroll that a little bit where I can see about half of tier 2?
Okay. Sorry, it's weird on my end because I can see it. Are we good there?
Nope, it hasn't moved at all. So I don't know what's,
Let me refresh. Let me refresh. All right, did it move at all?
nope.
Okay, let me stop sharing and then reshare because for some reason it's not cooperating. Okay, anything now?
No, we can't see anything at the moment.
Hmm.
I can pull it up. Just give me a sec.
Yeah, maybe it's being weird. Still nothing?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll just stop and see if Barbara can share it for some reason.
Okay, can everyone see this?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Can you see
All right.
the tier 2 items?
Yes.
All right, I'll scroll the whole way down till we get tier 2 and tier plus, which we're going to be discussing later.
Perfect. Thank you,
Yep.
Barbara.
Okay, so tier 2. So we have the so this is what I was calling the mega project. So I'm calling it the mega project, but I also want to point out that I think we are going to, these projects will still happen next year, but we might, I need to pull them back apart building by building in case I need to pivot, and I'm going to explain all that. So at the senior center building, we have the envelope repair, the roof repair, or the roof replacement, and then the HVAC replacement. I would like to bid those together, go out to bid for those, and that will happen next year. Now, the HVAC and the roof replacement at the health and wellness building, I would like to bid those separately. And I want to point out this yellow in tier plus, the crawl space ventilation. So this has come back on my radar, going through some records, old records and old capital repair plans. And it looks like this item, the crawl space ventilation, there has been so I guess in the transition between the old program manager and myself, this was lost. It looks like we had Cornerstone, who is our architect. They performed a report on the standing water that was found, that was reported to the NPRSA. And there was no water at the time it was inspected. And we did a test. The NPRSA had Cornerstone do a test on the ventilation, and they had no findings in the test. But we still never answered the question of why there was water in the crawl space to begin with. And so I have moved forward because I felt like it was a pretty good priority to have Cornerstone conduct a survey on why there was water in the crawl space. And so they are performing that. They're ramping up on that. I actually just got an email today on cost for that, and it looks like it'll be under $30,000 with the geotech, and I can send you guys all the information on that. But for them to conduct their study to find out why there was water, the senior center reported that the crawl space, I believe it was in 2020, that the crawl space was flooded with water. There was some pictures sent over. There was also a report that was sent over to us. And so I just feel that it's our due diligence to find out why the water was there, and if we need to correct or make any repairs, that we do so. And that is the reason why I want to separate the bid projects by building, so that if we have to pivot because of a more pressing priority at the Health and Wellness Center, we're able to do so without hindering the other project. So that was a lot. But yeah, so these projects are all slated to go out to public bid in November. We're still on track for that. And then hopefully, you know, we can start work spring 2023. And in November, I will have a more specific report about what's happening in our crawl space over at the Health and Wellness Building. And I believe that ends my capital repairs report. Any questions?
James, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Christine, did you say that the study was going to cost $30,000?
Yes. That included, let me see if I can find this email. Should have had my email up. So we have geotechnical at 3,500, PBS environmental at 5,000. We have a civil engineer at 5,000. We have reimbursable budget of 6,000 for drain scoping and 5,000 for potholing. And then, oh, that's it. Sorry, that was all. So those are the all of the fees, but $11,000 of that is reimbursable if we don't have to move forward in that direction. And we did find, we did some digging, and Barbara was actually able to find the original geotechnical report that I think helps a lot. So we're still digging through that and putting together a plan, so.
The former administrator was reviewing this. I'm trying to remember the discussions that we had. There was water at one point, and then there was no water. Was there any studies done at that time? Was there any? No assessments were done at that time?
No, there was only a ventilation assessment, and then there was we dug into Carly's emails, and there was an email from Andre at Cornerstone requesting that we do a study at that time. But of course, that was lost when Carly left. So it never made it onto an actual plan or, you know, action item.
And the status of the crawl space at this time is?
At the last time it was dry. So it was dry. It's just, where did the water come from and why did it get down there? I think is the question. But there was no water when Cornerstone, it was about a year ago that a little over a year, right when, I think it was July or June of 2021 that they went down. So, but they have not, nobody's been down there since.
Okay, and if memory serves, we just went through one of the wettest periods between the last time and now, and it was dry during that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So Christine, you have a budget placeholder for repairs on that at 300,000. Is that a scientific wild ass guess, or is that their estimate?
That is a wild ass guess.
Okay.
That is a worst case scenario situation.
Okay, so you provided us with the scientific worst case scenario there.
Yeah.
So 300,000 would be if there was significant water damage, if we would have to redo something. I don't know what it would be.
Piling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have they been down there when it's been rainy? Or have they only been down there in summer months? Because it strikes me, we've had a very long dry spell recently, and June can either be a monsoon or it can be really.
And that's the reason for the study. They want to go down when it's wet, and they want to do it in a periodic way so that we can figure it out. And it's not kind of a reactive situation. So yeah, they want to take a good look at it and figure out, okay, well, is it because it's a drain, that's clogged, or is it a leak, so hopefully we'll answer those questions.
And then just one more question. How long will it take them to study that crawl space before they can get back to us?
Andre told me he'll have something for us, a direction by November. So I'll have something to report and kind of, their initial findings, and hopefully we have a direction on if we're going to be potholing or what we need to do there. So
Perfect. Jeannie, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't apologize. Thank you. I guess my question was the $300,000. I don't know if we can clarify that. Is that to cover the source of the damage and the damage, or just covering the damage?
Jeannie, honestly, it was just a guess. It was kind of my worst case scenario. Hey, if we have to do foundational work, this is probably going to be pretty spendy. We'll probably need to put a big number here.
Okay, so you're thinking it's more foundational than plumbing or something?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I think that better to know than not. And Christine, you said that $11,000 of that is reimbursable to us if we don't find any problems. So it will only cost us $19,000 to have a little bit of peace of mind.
Correct.
Or that remaining money can go towards mitigating whatever we find. So there seemed to be a consensus that we should go ahead and, check the foundation of the building before we go out for bid on anything else.
Correct.
Okay. I think everybody's been pretty clear on that one. All right.
All right. Pedestrian bridge closeout. So we are closing out the pedestrian bridge. We have submitted for final completion. We have done our walkthrough, and punch list has been completed, and we have done a final inspection. So we have not yet received our final invoicing, so I do not have a number for you on that. Currently, to date, we are at $795,500 that we have paid. And so it looks like we are going to be either under or at budget. We had a $900,000 budget for that. And so it looks good. You can go ahead to the next slide, Barbara. I just wanted to provide some pictures for people that haven't been able to kind of head out there or past it, but it looks really good. The web gray looks great. I'm pretty happy. I'm glad that it's finally over. But it looks good. The traffic coding, we had problems with that, but currently it looks great out there. It has some nice texture so that we won't have any slip or falls. And that water there that you see, our Andre's people are spraying it down and make sure nobody's going to slip. And so we had some testing going on, but yeah, it looks great, and scaffolding is down now. And yeah, I'm glad to be closing this one out, and hopefully we can get these handrails nice, and that will go smoothly, hopefully. So does anybody have any questions or comments for the bridge.
It looks fantastic, especially without the scaffolding on there. But look, just looking at this picture, not to bring up a previous topic, but the handrails, just the little round rails are what we're going to be replacing for the next for the previous handrail project, correct? Not all the side verticals, but just the horizontal railing.
No, it's the whole, everything that you see there in maroon would go.
Okay. So everything. Okay, thank you. With the, I mean, I know that they're checking to see if that there's no pooling on there. Is there a spot for all of that to drain in the bridge? I can't tell from the picture.
Oh, yeah, there are floor drains there.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm really happy that you have this off your plate, Christine. Now you can focus on things like, drainage issues in the crawl space.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeannie, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just raised my hand. I think it looks like a great photo op. Whenever we get a chance to meet in person, it should be on the bridge.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to weigh in. It looks great.
Thank you. All right, I think I am done with the reports for now.
All right. James and Joe, you guys can take this one all on your own. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say.
I think we covered this earlier.
Yeah, I think James had more information than I had for sure. But did Ms. Zorns, did you hear that from James?
I
Earlier?
heard no updates, and I've been waiting with bated breath to hear what kind of fantastic next steps are going on with this.
We, at this time, we're in a holding pattern for Councilmember Nabowski to work through the funding portion to get us to the next RFP portion, which we will be discussing in a future meeting.
Okay, short and sweet.
And then I think also, James, right, we maybe want to get an idea of what our respective constituents would like to see, or ideas for what they'd like to see in a bid. Is that right?
That is correct. Once we have a discussion around the RFP process, then we'll take it back to our councils respectfully. I will be bringing it up in my next council conversations and committee report updates, not this following Tuesday, but the one after, to get a consensus or a feel for support of a type of RFP process. And then we discussed Councilmember Nabowski potentially being the county being the admin of the RFP process.
And it sounds like it's going to be about 325 grand, meaning the funds we're looking at.
The funds, correct.
So as a precursor for going back to our councils, are we laying everything on the table? It could be a pool, it could be more sports fields, it could be a gymnasium, sports field, pool complex facility. Are we looking for specifics? Are we looking for specific requests from cities, or are we looking to take something to our respective councils and ask for their approval?
Well, I think for what I'm going to present to my council is just the conversation that we're having around all of those topics. But more importantly, the grant has been awarded to do the needs assessment analysis for us. So it's going to tell us what the need is in our area. There would be some siting information there as well. But more importantly, it's just telling us what the need is, the type of needs that we have. Obviously, pools is at the top of a list, so that would be in there as well. But is your council supportive of going out for an RFP needs assessment that has youth, social, mental, pool, active space? Are they supportive of that, the NPRSA taking that on?
And programmatic, right? Programmatic activities too.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that PowerPoint presentation got shared. Is that correct? At the last meeting that Councilmember Nabowski presented the 325, did that get shared with the board?
I don't recall.
Okay. So I think maybe what I'll do, Chair, is forward to you a draft preliminary presentation of what the needs assessment would look like and who might be doing that needs assessment. And then that, I think that could possibly be shared with everybody.
That's great. I figured if, as long as we have a consistent model that we're presenting to our councils, I think we'll probably get a better answer so that we're comparing apples to apples. So I will absolutely look forward to that draft presentation that you have. And then I can bring it up with my council again at my next meeting, which will be the first part of October. But if we could come back in November, then with maybe some ideas from our councils about, you know, in this needs assessment, what would you like to see? And then we can hopefully get going with the county soon after.
Chair Vice Campbell, can I make a comment quickly?
Yes, of course.
I know that there are a couple of our neighboring cities that are partnering together on some aquatic center studies and assessments. And I can just tell you, there's a little bit of confusion amongst the cities on how those efforts are collaborative, or perhaps they're not collaborative at all. And so I think what would be helpful would be Board Member Marshall, I think you know a little bit about those other city aquatic center assessments, or no? I know Kenmore and Kirkland are embarking on something. I just feel like perhaps we could be helpful from the staff side, and maybe I have more of my City of Bothell hat on right now, but I think we need to reach out to those other efforts that are happening, because there's a lot of confusion. And we get questions about it. And so, like, for example, folks will say, oh, we heard there was already a needs assessment or already a community center study happening. And there's a couple of them happening. And so also, Board Member McNeil, I don't know if you have any advice on that, but are you okay with me reaching out to the other city staffs that are doing those things? Or do we want to keep this completely separate? There's some confusion.
Yeah, I think it might be worth having a much deeper dive into that. I think that all of this kind of stems from the funding that was just made available for Best Starts for Kids levy.
Yeah.
And that money is going to be distributed throughout King County. And I think the push that I'm seeing is that we find a way to get a project identified, a need identified within our communities. And I'm specifically talking about North Shore specific right now. That's not to say that, you know, we're going to get $25-30 million, but if we have a project identified, then that gives us a better opportunity to get those funds to help fund and facilitate the project to move forward. It is going to be a long endeavor. I'll just tell you that. But to answer your question, I would personally have no issue with you reaching out, but I would leave it to the other board members to weigh in on that as well. But to me, the most important thing is for us to have that needs assessment, so that we're not just saying we need to have something. We actually have an assessment that says this is your need. Here's where the need, and it's not just around specific programming. Board Member Marshall brought up, it's around who are those partners that are going to do that programming, right? And once we, I'm speaking for NPRSA as a board member now, once we put that RFP out there, it might give us some leverage to be able to bring those partners to the table as well. And through the work of King County administering this, I think it would move us forward a little bit further, and it might be those others come to us for guidance as well. So yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I think that's exactly what has to happen. We have to have a bigger vision, and we have to all be moving in the same direction if anything of this magnitude is ever going to happen. And so I think maybe perhaps, since I know that Kenmore is involved in one of those assessment studies that's happening right now, I'll just reach out to my counterpart there just to, make sure we're all not on the same page, but just tiptoe a little bit into those conversations, because I think it might help us in the long run if we kind of are all moving in that big same direction. So, and I'll do it delicately, but thank you so much. That's helpful.
Yeah, before I weigh in, I mean, I've only been a politician like 4 years now, I think it is. And as a citizen, I could never see why, we can't all just work together towards getting such an important goal. I absolutely encourage it and exploring ways to try and get it done. Obviously, it would benefit so many people to try and get collaboration, for sure. And then my question was, and this is kind of the risk of being way too obvious. The 325 then is for the assessment. It's not going to go towards the program or the end product or anything.
That's correct. It's
Right.
just set aside specifically for the needs
Right.
assessment.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, James. And thank you, Councilmember Range.
I would also like to know where, if the $325,000 that we're going to get from the county, if cities have set aside a smaller amount, I think we could probably provide a more robust needs assessment than they could. I know that, city budgets are what they are. If we could get an idea of how much they've expended, how far in the process they've gone, maybe they would be willing to let us do the heavy lift of the needs assessment, and then they could partner with us on the back end for other portions of it too, because I don't want to see all the different cities in the North Shore doing their own little bit, and then everybody will have expended money that could have been better used in another way. So I think if you're willing to reach out, that's wonderful. I mean, we don't need to be secretive about this. This is for everyone.
You articulated exactly what I was thinking, Chair. That is exactly what I think. So thank you.
I cribbed exactly what you said, and I got to sound smart with your words. Thank you. But I think it's a great idea to be open, honest, and communicative. I'd like to know what are the ideas from other cities, and how can we sort of amplify it. We're a slightly larger organization. We have different opportunities with the money that we have. Maybe we can tell them, don't expend money that you don't have to. Let's see if we can do something for you.
Absolutely. Power in numbers.
I sure hope so. Well, thank you for that. This actually excites me. I'm excited to get a needs assessment now. I know we have a ways to go on that one still, but the draft presentation is going to go a long way to presenting to our councils and sort of wet everybody's whistle for what's coming. So thank you, Joe and James, for that. That's excellent. All right. Next, we have got consideration of minute order. Oh, no, we're going to go back to Nathan. Are we going to go to reports, or that's right, we still are in reports, aren't we? Don't mind me thinking out loud.
I will go real
Nathan's
quick.
report, and then at some point we're going to need to jump back to do the consent agenda. Sorry.
Well, I can go very quickly. Just a couple of quick highlights from the senior center this month. Just to all of our facilities watching team, we got through the heat of summer without a major blowout of the HVAC system. I think anyone who's been up on our roof knows that it's on its very last legs. We were, just watching it every single day to make sure we got through the summer, especially since we function as a cooling center. But we did get through the heat, and everything kind of worked the way it was supposed to. And we got through the heat. So that was great. That's one of the things I'm still celebrating a little bit. I mentioned some of the summer programming we had earlier. We talked briefly earlier about the Capes for Courage 5K and how much fun that was. There have been a lot of really fun events at the centers this summer. But I also just wanted to point out a few things coming up. We've installed our new kiln at the senior center, and so the pottery folks are super excited. We got that fired up and it's working. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, that should kind of anchor some of our arts programming a little bit more. And so we're excited to see some of the stuff that comes out of that. A couple other things that are coming up. We've just, so you all know, we've applied for a tavern license at the senior center. Washington State allows a special tavern license for senior centers, and so we've applied for one. We're not sure exactly how we're going to use it or program it yet, but just to let you know, we might be able to be doing some wine tastings or maybe some evening hours libations out of our coffee shop if that moves forward. So more to come on that. Couple of other things coming down the pike too. We have some exciting partnerships coming up with some of our South Asian and Indian American partners, and it looks like we'll be doing a Diwali for Seniors event coming up soon. So watch your calendar invites for that. We're also doing a project with a local elementary school, matching young people with local seniors to do a storytelling project. And it's especially cool because we've just come to a pretty historic period where both kids and seniors were heavily impacted by the pandemic. So I feel like we're creating some historic artifacts here that I'm excited to see come to fruition. And other than that, we're also getting ready to get the carpet replaced in the senior center, the main building. You should see how much upheaval that causes as everyone has to pack up their offices that they've been in. Some of people have been in their offices for 20 years, but getting stuff packed up, I think everyone's gonna be really excited to see the new look that looks a lot cleaner and nicer in here. Carpets that match. I think I counted 12 different carpet patterns we have in the building right now. So getting down to 1 or 2 or 3 will be awesome. So that's my quick update for tonight. But I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Any questions for Nathan? Sorry, I'm getting close. Jeannie, go ahead.
No questions. I just think we might need to rename the North Shore Senior Center to the North Shore Happy Center.
I'll take that under, well, I'll forward that on to our board, Councilmember Zorns.
All right, if there's nothing else, thank you, Nathan.
Cool.
Before we go to discussion items, let's go back and we need to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion on that? Jeannie,
So
go ahead.
moved. So moved.
All right. There's been a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second on our consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstentions? Okay, now we can go back to discussion items. All right, consideration of minute order MO 22-09, approving the re-permitting of a residential unit in the North Shore Senior Center.
So I think some of you know that when the senior center was originally built, it was built with a caretaker's residence on site. If we could go to the next slide, it kind of, if you've been up on the second floor of the senior center, the corner of the building was actually constructed as and is permitted as a residence. We haven't had, that role kind of got outdated and we don't have a need for an on-site caretaker anymore. And so that space, if we go to the next slide, has kind of been unused. We've kind of cleaned it out and have been trying to fix it up a little bit. But we haven't had that role for several years now, and the space in its current configuration really doesn't have any usable function for us. The space is just a little bit too small and to just convert straight over to programming. So one of the things we're proposing is that on the next slide, that space is kind of an open kitchen space and living room space, a small bathroom and a bedroom. And so what we'd like to do is change that over to a big meeting room that would just provide another meeting space at the center, because we're kind of getting to capacity sometimes in our current meeting rooms. We have need for a storage space for movable office furniture, meeting room furniture, chairs and desks and things as we change configurations of those two adjoining meeting spaces. And then one of the things we don't have in either of our centers is an all-gender bathroom. So we'd like to convert this bathroom into an all-gender bathroom that is both a welcoming thing, and then also we have a lot of mixed gender couples with caretakers and people with disabilities in the building also. So we want to make that also a space where people can bathroom with dignity. So those are kind of the ideas we have cooking for that. But to do any of those, we need to do a change of use from residential to regular commercial on those. And so that is something, as our landlord, we would ask for your approval to consider.
All right, are there any questions on this one? Jeannie, go ahead.
Was it ever used as a caretaker residential unit, or has it just been kind of sitting there unused?
It's been sitting there unused for the last few years. It did have a caretaker in it for many years, but as the functions of the center changed and the need for that position has kind of disappeared.
Okay, so I'm just, thinking down the road. Is it trying to think down the road? So has it disappeared because the function of the senior center has just gotten so big that it can't be served by a caretaker living there on site?
That's part of it, and also just the way labor laws are structured, and how we would use a caretaker. It isn't a model that works well for our nonprofit now.
Okay, all right, well, that's good to know. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I had a question about your estimated costs. I know that the senior center would be paying for it, not the NPRSA, but I'm curious what your anticipated costs are on that. We would have to, I would guess, tie it in with some of the HVAC. So some of that cost would be on us. Is that right?
There are some costs. Yeah, the HVAC costs in particular. That would be part of the overall HVAC project. At this point, we're only asking to re-permit the space. We have not gone down the road of trying to cost out those projects right now because we don't have a source of funding to pay for those. But yeah, we would come back. We would definitely submit any future projects to NPRSA before moving forward with full cost estimates. Yeah.
Okay. James, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. So if we were to change we were to re-permit it now, would we be able to re-permit it back?
That would probably be a question for City of Bothel's planning folks, but I can't see any reason why not. I mean, you can do you can petition for a change of use at any time, but it would require moving it. Well, I see that. I don't know the answer to that. We should find that out.
Yeah, I'd be curious if so. It sounds to me like it's just a meeting room, storage, and bathroom. And if there was a use permit that would allow you to do that versus re-permitting, because if you ever did want to go back and convert it back, I'm just thinking down the road as board member Zorns alluded to, that if you ever had a change of use in the future, 5-10 years, you may want to use it differently because things change.
Right.
Would you have to go through this process again, or could you just get a special use permit that allows you to do the remodel that you want to do without actually having to change the permitting part?
We could definitely inquire. That would be a preferred option. A special use permit that would allow either use would be preferential. So we could definitely look into that.
Thank you.
Sorry, Christine, go ahead. Oh, I think you're still muted. I did the same thing just now.
So I wanted to confirm that I did talk to Andre from Cornerstone, and he did confirm that the HVAC project did not include the residential space. At one point, we considered it, but we were already in permitting at that time, and so it did not get into what has already been approved permitting. The permit approved by the City of Bothell does not include that residence, and we did not purchase any units that cover that area as well. that
So
would,
what does that
but
mean for special,
so
okay, so for special use? Would that preclude, if we don't have the HVAC that would cover that room, it would either be really hot or really cold?
yeah, so right now, with the way the room is permitted, it's a residence. So right now they have window units that are there, and there's cadet heaters that are in the room. For commercial usage, we would have to get the proper ventilation and HVAC in there to use it, I believe, as a conference room. But from what I understand from Andre, we will. It's pretty easy to put a standalone project together to tie it in, and then also there are other options as far as like split units that could be utilized as well that don't tie into the actual HVAC system, but it would be its own standalone unit. I don't know if I'm using those terms correctly, but.
So you're saying that there are ways that we could either stand alone, or there are ways that we could work that
Or
into,
tie it in, correct.
to tie it
Mhm.
in.
Yeah.
So then I guess the question in front of us is it possible to get a special use permit so we don't have to go through something that's inflexible? So I guess we would have to ask, I assume City of Bothell permitting would be the one that we could ask about that.
Well, I think-
Do we need to re-permit, or can we just special use it? Nathan?
Well, I think the motion on the table would allow us to pursue either option. We could go to the city with this motion and say, we'd like to do a special use permit. And if that's not possible, then convert to a commercial use. Is that everyone else's understanding of the motion? Okay.
All right, are there any more questions about that?
Yes, and
Yes.
I apologize. My computer shut down in the midst. So
No, no worries, go right ahead.
just totally, Nathan, if you could just totally boil down the purpose of the need for it. I apologize. You can make it real quick because my computer broke down.
The real short version is we have an apartment in the building we won't use anymore, and we'd like to start using it for senior center uses instead.
All right, well, if there are no more questions, then I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chair. I do.
Sorry,
I-
thank you. James. Go ahead.
I really want to see this move forward because I want to be, I want to be positive and reinforcing about the uses of this, but it does concern me not knowing, going into this process, not knowing if it is going to hinder us in the future for doing something. So I just would like to have the opportunity to know that first. Not that we wouldn't want to do it, but there has to be a way for us to do this without having to go back through another process, because we're going to have a change like this in the future. I'd also like to say that I'm a little concerned about the HVAC not encompassing the entire building, because if that area was not being used previously, we should have known that during that decision-making process, that we would have had to have done something differently for that area, because it's not going to fall within commercial. So these are just some of the things that are coming to mind of how we when we make our decisions, ensuring that we have all the proper information to make the decision, because potentially if you take this away and put it into a meeting room now, you have to go to a commercial or zone it or put mini splits or something like that into that unit on its own, and it's not tied into the full facility. So then now you have a separated system that thus is additional maintenance. So there's all these things that come up, just having a knowledge and understanding of kind of the backbones of it. I just think in the future, when, if I'm not sitting here or different board members change, just having a background of, taking care of buildings is a lot of work, I guess is what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. That I do this daily, so I understand it, and I don't want to be the guy that's trying to explain it all, but I do want to make sure I'm lending my voice so that you guys understand kind of how my sketchy brain is thinking right now about like making sure we're doing the best possible thing for this building, move it forward for the future. So I'm sorry that was long-winded, but I just wanted to throw that out.
No, I think we all appreciate your insight into construction and understanding this, James. I'm sad that you have to do this for your day job and for your night job, but I also am grateful for that. Jeannie, you have your hand raised as well.
Yeah, just quick question. And maybe James would want to weigh in on whether this is a good question to be asking or not. Is this an opportunity or a flag that's signaling that maybe we should be looking for other areas in the senior center that need HVAC, that doesn't have HVAC? Are there any other little spots that we should be considering that should be covered with our HVAC once we've get it all up to date?
No, this was the only area that was not included.
Oh, perfect. How easy was that? Thank you.
So the only other question I would have is, so if we approve this order, the senior center is free to go to a re-permitting process. Will the board only find out in which direction the permit goes after the senior center goes through it, or is the senior center going to come back to the board and say, this was the permit that we were offered by Bothell? So will we have an opportunity to not necessarily weigh in, but understand the impact of whatever re-permitting we're doing?
Not as the motion is currently worded. I would recommend an amended motion that would authorize the senior center to investigate this and apply for a special use permit perhaps, so that they can move along with that process without further review. But then if that isn't going to work, then this question would be brought before the board again at November's meeting, probably. And then the board would be able to make a final decision about whether or not we want to commit to changing that to a commercial space or leaving it residential.
Okay. So how does the board feel about giving full ability for the senior center to go for the special use permit, but anything beyond that, I think we should probably have more of a discussion around what that would entail, particularly with HVAC, all of the other things that we probably haven't thought of already. Does that seem like a fair opportunity for the senior center to move forward in some capacity, but not so far that we can't control the process? Okay, so how about we have an amended motion for allowing the East Senior Center to investigate a special use permit? Does that sound like a good motion for everybody?
It does.
Second,
All right.
second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to allow the senior center to investigate a special use permit of the residential unit in the North Shore Senior Center. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for suggesting special use and giving us a little bit of guide rails. I really appreciate all the guidance that everybody's throwing out tonight. Thank you, everyone.
And so just question, Chair, it'll come back for further direction at some point.
If the special use permit is not granted, then they will come back to us and then we will have a further discussion. That is correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, and speaking of HVAC, consideration of minute order MO 22-11 approving HVAC replacement at the Health and Wellness Center.
All right, so we spoke about this earlier. So we're working on putting together the roof replacement and HVAC replacement at the Health and Wellness building to take place in 2023. I would like to get formal approval from the board to approve this capital repair so that I can move forward with bidding the public bid and also with the purchasing of equipment.
So you're asking to bid these, the senior center and health and wellness separately?
Yes, everything has been approved in the tier 2 project except for the HVAC replacement at the health and wellness center. So I just need approval so that we can move forward with that project.
You were saying that the health and this from a previous item, health and wellness was going to be bid separately from the senior center because of concerns about the water and the crawl space. So
Correct.
this is sort of the natural progression of why we're going to be bidding it separately, is because if health and wellness has extensive problems, we want to make sure that that's not contingent upon another contract. So this is split out because of our conversation earlier about water.
No, not exactly. So this is split out because it was never approved as a capital repair item in the original capital repairs plan that was put forth to the board in 2021 for 2022. So I just want, before I spend any more money with the project, I wanted to get formal approval ahead of time, just because it was the only one that was not approved.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Does anybody have any
But it
questions?
will- The projects will be separate per
Okay.
building. Mhm.
Got it. James, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So the initial cost, this is going out to bid. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
So we're just approving the bidding, this to go out to bid. We're not approving the cost of the work.
Correct. Correct. Mhm.
Okay, so we're approving the bidding process to separate it from the other. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
No, you're approving the project as a capital repairs project that I can move forward with.
Sending it out to bid,
Yes.
not doing the repairs, but sending it out to bid.
No, just to do the repairs. So you guys have not approved the HVAC replacement at the health and wellness building as an approved capital repair item for the NPRSA staff to work on. So we just want, and usually you guys approve a whole list of items at the end of the year for the next year. This item was not on the list. And so, it is natural that we would do the roof replacement and the HVAC at the same time. So we wanted to ask you to add it so that way I can move forward and we can go out to bid in November as planned. But we just realized that it was not actually on the original list.
We just realized it wasn't on the original list.
Yeah, the original capital repairs plan for 2020 that was approved in 2021 for 2022.
Think of this as an amendment to the capital repairs plan that was passed at the end of last year. So all we're doing is we're asking that the HVAC replacement for the Health and Wellness Center be sort of added as a project that the board has identified we can begin moving forward on in 2022. So that we can finish putting the bid packet together and go out to bid for both of these projects in November. Because otherwise, we would have to wait until the board approved the capital repairs plan for 2023, and we wouldn't be able to go out to bid for the health and wellness portion of this project until January.
Gotcha. When we talk about our budget for facilities, does our budget include is it including both facilities?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any more questions on this one? Seeing no little hands raised, are we ready for a motion on this, on the HVAC replacement? All right, so anybody like to make a motion?
Chair, can you read that motion? I'm sorry.
Certainly. Move to approve minute order MO 22-11, approving HVAC replacement at the Health and Wellness Center.
So that tells me that we're approving the replacement.
Right. So do we want to amend it to say approve going out to bid? Because it's clear that both of those are going out to bid. And we would then have to make our decision after the bids to see what bids have been responsive. So would we like to word that differently? Approving HVAC bidding at the Health and Wellness Center. Would that be more appropriate for the board?
That makes sense to me.
Okay. So I'll suggest an amended motion to approve minute order MO 22-11, approving HVAC bidding at the Health and Wellness Center.
Sorry, Chair, for clarification, Christine, is that correct? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second to approve HVAC bidding at the Health and Wellness Center. Would anybody like to make any further comments before we go out to a vote on this one? I know it's been a little bit fraught. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition or abstention? Okay, motion carries. Okay, on to consideration of minute order MO 22-10, approving Tier Plus capital repair projects.
So just to be clear, this is in conjunction with the request for there to be a scope of work for Cornerstone and the increase of their contract, the $200,000 increase. So we did some estimates for potential projects to close out basically the project for the current levy. We met with Nathan at the senior center and also with Cornerstone, and we also looked at the building assessment that was completed a few years ago. And so this was a list that we put together. These are preliminary numbers. They're just estimates. And so what you would be approving today is for us to move forward with getting drilling down on these projects and coming up with better numbers. These items would not be completed in 2023 if we move forward. If you choose to move forward, they would be project list, to-do list for 2024. 2023's budget is pretty tight. So we wanted to present this list and these ROM estimated costs so that we can amend the Cornerstone contract to include a scope of work. Because as of now, we've approved them for a $200,000 increase, a contract increase. But we definitely wanted to have some a scope of work for them. So this is us being proactive in that. And we would need the board's obvious feedback and prioritization of this list.
Well, I'm going to get started here. So that point number 7, the health and wellness crawl space drainage. So we had talked about that in the previous discussion item.
Yep.
At which that cost was worst case scenario $300,000. I'm curious where this $175,000 comes from.
So
Is this
the 175
another estimate?
is, yes, so this that 175 is to correct drainage. I put that, so the $300,000 is in my budget as a placeholder for a worst case scenario. This 175 came as a space filler from Cornerstone if the drainage needed to be replaced. So it's kind of them putting a placeholder and then me putting a placeholder. So I'm sorry, that was confusing.
So it's either or, it's not additive. It's not going to be 475,000, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. So to be clear, you're asking for prioritization of these projects?
No, not currently. I just want to approve the list so that we can add it as potential projects for Cornerstone to work on moving into 2024. But in the next, once this list is approved, then we can start drilling down on what our prioritization is, and then, sit down with the senior center and figure out what their prioritization is. And then we can present, hey, these are what we think, and then get your feedback, and then we can come up with a really good project list to round out the end of the levy in 2024, 2025.
Okay. So this is just let's throw everything at Cornerstone to see that this could potentially be the scope of work, and then we'll drill down when we do our budget.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Does anybody have any comments about this? Anything you like, anything you don't like, anything we should remove, anything perhaps that we needed to add? James, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just have a lot of questions. A lot of things are flooding into my head right now, and I don't know if I'm just thinking about this the wrong way, but I get a concern when, I mean, this is amazing work. So I thank you for pulling this all together, but having things in pieces concern me. 300,000 in one area, 175 in another area. I'm trying to make sense of kind of how to put this all together and sum it up. But I want to make sure that when I make decisions here, that I'm being responsible with the decisions that I'm making. And I feel like if I were to make a decision on this right now, I don't feel like I'd be making a decision that I have enough tangible information on to make the decision. That's just me personally.
So I guess from our point of view, this is us putting together a scope of work that are possibilities for Cornerstone to work on within that additional $200,000 that we approved in their contract. This is by no means approving the project. This is just approving a potential scope of work for the Cornerstone contract. For us to move forward to gain any other information, it would probably, I would have to reach out to Cornerstone for design, which is going to cost us money on projects that probably we won't move forward on. So that's where the prioritization comes in, where it's like, okay, let's look at these 7 projects. Which ones are the most important? Which ones do we need to get more information on, more design on? And then we can go from there. But from our point of view, or where we sit, to have a list or a pot of projects for us to work on and prioritize and have you guys approve first, I feel is a better use of our time. So that way we can, and resources, because Andre is $400 an hour, and so if he's working on, say, the parking lot, and we decide that the parking lot's not what we want to do, we want to focus on 5, 6, and 7, then we wasted money on, on a project we're probably not going to move forward on. So that was kind of our thought behind it. And also so that we have a list of projects for Cornerstone, and it's just not an additional $200,000. The contract that Cornerstone first signed had a scope of work with listed possible projects. They did not complete all those projects. I took some of those projects off of their list. And so I would do the same in this sense. As far as like the renovation of the lobby, depending upon what the senior center wanted, I mean, we could probably paint the lobby and do some lighting fixtures and spruce it up, and it wouldn't cost $500,000, and me and Nathan could work together to get that done versus routing it through Cornerstone. But these are items, these are projects that we thought that we would bring to the board to approve. So sorry if that was long.
No, I appreciate the context behind that. That kind of helps me summarize. Using the example that you just came up with for the lobby, instead of, if I'm understanding you correctly, instead of spending $52,000 to tell us how to spend $525,000, we would just do a small light renovation. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes. If there are projects that I can project manage myself without the help of Cornerstone, then I will take those off of their plate.
Okay, that now I'm starting to understand. And so me putting my project manager hat on right now, to me, I would like to understand before we spend $40,000 on the parking lot and $20,000 and 52 and all these different dollars here. And you may have covered this last year, and I apologize if you guys did when I was not present, but I would like to know the totality of what these things are when they're actually coming due. That helps me to prioritize what items we should be spending consultant time and money on first. If you said that the parking lot is about to fail right now and we don't have anything to worry about with the grease trap, then that's in the right order. But if you said the grease trap was going to fail and we need to replace that grease trap now, then that would go to number one for me. So having that context, and again, maybe you provided it to the board prior to this year, but I apologize if you did, but I would need, for me personally, I would need that context.
Yes. So what will happen is, so you guys would approve this list to go on Cornerstone's amended contract, but the board still has the power every year to approve the capital repairs plan for the next year. So in 2023 is kind of a wash because we're doing the mega project. But at the end of 2023, I will bring these forth again, and we will have more information and a better prioritization ourselves on what our recommendations will be as far as which projects we need to move forward with in 2024. So the motion now is to approve the project to go onto Cornerstone's possible list of projects for the additional $200,000 that we increased their contract to at the last board meeting. The board will still have the power or the authority to approve or not approve any projects moving forward in the capital repairs plan that we will present to you at the end of each year.
Are these all the projects that we have currently?
These are the projects that the senior center and ourselves, the NPRSA staff, identified as projects that we should move forward with after the mega project.
But there are other projects, is that correct?
There are other projects that we could work on. And you know, there's always going to be those things that come up randomly and we'll have to be more reactive on. But yeah, there are other things on the list. These are the ones that made it on our kind of final list that we came up together.
Okay, Chair, do we have a list of all of the items that have been identified besides these 7? Is there a document that has all that?
There's been a spreadsheet with some of them. Christine, do we have a single grand unifying document of what's done and what has been done? I've seen a bunch of things.
So on the graph that I sent you all in August, and you guys also, Barbara, this was sent to them last week, right? When we sent the agenda packet out.
The CIP, you mean?
Yeah. So this.
It was
this
not, but
document-
I'll send it to you all as soon as this meeting is over.
Okay, so you guys will receive this document. This is our working document. So it has every project that has been approved by the board, every project that is, these items that are on your screen right now are in the tier plus column. And the tier plus column are potential projects. And then also in the tier plus column are projects that have either been put on hold or have just been kind of dropped off. So if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for the approved capital repairs, everything that has been approved as a capital repair, we can get you that. Or I don't know if you're referring to the Cornerstone approved projects or not.
Yeah, I'm
Because
just
some
looking
of
for a
these-
comprehensive list of projects that have been identified and the status of those. Is that what I'm looking at here? What
Yes.
am I looking at?
Yep, so this is tier one is, we're finishing out tier one projects. So these were 2020 and 2021 capital repairs projects that were completed. The blue is complete. The green, it means that we're still actively working on it. This pedestrian bridge repair and rehab. Once we have final completion and get the final invoicing done, this will be blue. And then we have the handrails. That is kind of the lingering item on that list. The tier two are our projects that we're going out to bid for this year to be completed next year. And then the tier plus are the items that are on the screen as far as what I want to add to potential projects for Cornerstone moving forward till the end of the levy. And we can always add, but I just didn't want the 200,000 that we increased to just be blank. I wanted to provide some kind of scope of work for the contract, just because the previous contract also identified a scope of work, which they did, I took some of that off of their list and took those projects on myself, just to, be more cost efficient because it was within my wheelhouse. And I will continue to do that, so.
Okay, so it sounds like this is the only list we have. There's nothing beyond the stuff that's on this Excel sheet.
Correct.
Jeannie, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to make another point, is that not all of these projects were routed through Andre. Some were done with just Forma, and some of them were done with me, which is just the flooring for now. But there were projects that were done, like the water heater replacement, that were done outside of Cornerstone. And the ionization.
Jeannie, go ahead.
Yeah, I think James asked some of the questions that I was thinking about, what, an inventory of all the projects that are out there. And Christine answered the question about there is some hierarchy in these projects. I guess I'm concerned that if I'm understanding correctly, you just want to get all the menu up and approved so that down the road we can decide which projects we want to pick off of that list.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. This is just the menu, and then you guys can make your choices in 2023 of what you guys want on your plate.
Okay. Well, I guess what I would also appreciate, and you do a good job as things come up. Appreciate kind of knowing the status of how critical it is to address some of those projects, because some are more fun than the others, but some are more significant. I do have a question about the bioswale. Is there something in the city code that it has to be checked periodically, or?
Yes.
Or are we
They,
just kind of on our own to take care of that?
Yep, the city inspects it annually, and it is the tenant's responsibility to maintain the bioswale. And,
Okay.
and they are doing so, yeah.
Does that mean like refreshing the soil or?
No, it's usually clearing out brush or any growth in there, making sure that the water is flowing properly the way it should be.
Okay, okay, perfect. Okay, I think the previous discussion with James answered a lot of my questions, so thank you.
Nathan, go ahead.
Thanks. I appreciate having this list, and I think it's a super useful tool. If we're going to use it as if the board wants to use it as a menu of projects, though, I might suggest, Christine, would it make sense to add other projects on here that the senior center has raised as possibilities? Things like having an all-gender bathroom, residence conversion, sports court, other stuff that we've kind of identified as possible priorities also.
Yes, if the board would like me to add those, then yes.
I like the look of this. I like to be able to see where we are in terms of projects and what has already been completed and what we have going in the future. But I mean, for me, I look at these and I still get confused because we have senior center and health and wellness. They're coming up in different tiers and different times. I would like to see, I guess, a more comprehensive list. What has occurred at senior center? What has occurred at health and wellness? And when are those occurring in the timeline? It would give me, I guess, a better understanding of where we are in each of those buildings. If one building is nearest completion, maybe we prioritize a project to close that out. And if another building is requiring a lot more time, then, maybe spend more money in there if there's a larger project. So I think there's a way for us to use this tool here, the spreadsheet. And I guess to James's concern earlier, have a little bit more holistic understanding of where everything is. So when we get our agenda packets, if we could see this spreadsheet as part of the presentation, here we are, this is where we are in the process, health and wellness is this, senior center is this. I think that would be just a useful visual aid for us to conceptualize where things are. That's my 2 cents. I would appreciate any board feedback on that as well.
I don't think I don't mind me personally. I don't mind the notations and them all lumped together. But if it's too much of a mishmash for you, separating it would be fine as well. I get the impression that tier 1 is our first thing, that's our first thing that we have to address, and that may alternate between the center and the health and wellness. They may share tier 1, they may share spots on tier 2, or one building may be more on tier 2.
Mm.
But yeah, having more information, I like the idea of having projects listed on there that we kind of have a big bird's eye picture, and then can narrow down on our priorities.
So the tier 1 is the capital repairs plan that was approved by the board the year before last, and then tier 2 is the approved list outside of the HVAC replacement at Health and Wellness Center, because you guys approved that today. That is the approved list for capital repairs for 2022 that is actually getting pushed to 2023. So that's the way we have it set up. If you guys would like, I can add a column to this and identify the different buildings through the columns. So that way you can actually sort by the building and see which projects are happening in which building. And I can also come up with just a quick snapshot of what's happening now in the building per building. If that helps, I can put together something.
James, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd agree with you, the chair, on this one. If we can, first of all, I'm a spreadsheet fanatic. I love having information and being able to pull reports, generate reports from the information. So it gives me a good snapshot and look into where I'm at all times. And so if there's a way to group the building, how much we're actually spending on a building, group it by tier, group it by year that it was approved. As long as the information's in a spreadsheet, we should be able to generate reports that are viewable or visible to us in a context in which we're able to navigate them. So I think that would be an awesome opportunity for us to have that information and be able to view it different ways so that we can see what we're spending, when we're spending it, et cetera. The other thing would be on the list, the 7 items list, to just have an understanding if we approve things like that, are we approving them to move forward? Are we approving that expenditure of the 200,000 when we approve those 7 items, even though the order may change? Are we approving them to move forward with the costs, the consulting costs? Just making
No.
sure that I'm understanding that piece of it. So if we approve that order tonight, that's not saying that they can move forward with any one of those items before it comes back to the board. Is that correct?
That's correct. I approve, I give approval for each project to be moved forward individually to Cornerstone. So even if it's on their list, they do not move forward unless I give them the go ahead, and I don't move unless you guys give me the go ahead. So this is
Okay.
not approving, this is not giving them the approval to move forward. This is just putting together a preliminary scope of work for them.
Okay, so it's just a draft scope of work. There's been
Correct.
no approval to exercise the funds at that point, correct? Okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right, could it be that we're ready for a motion? And I don't, oh gosh. All right, the motion is to approve minute order MO 22-10, approving Tier Plus capital repair projects.
Do you want a motion? Do you want it to be moved or seconded?
I would take either.
I so moved.
All right, so we've had a motion and a second to approve minute order MO 22-10, approving the Tier Plus capital repair projects. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
I'm a nay.
Okay. And abstention. Okay, so motion passes 3-1. All right. Moving on to consideration of resolution R 22-02, requesting an interfund loan from King County.
Okay, I'll try to make this as fast as I can, okay? I'm covering all the material. The NPRSA staff expect a deficit spending in 2023 to complete all the Tier 2 projects. That will lead to a negative balance into quarter 3. King County Loan offers agencies to resolve cash flow issues. The rates generally range from 0.5% to 1.5%, and the loan terms are in 1 year after the completion of construction. We're recommending that we take a $1 million loan with a term from January 2023 to December 2024. And I just want to make it clear that if we do not approve the loan, that we will have to move Tier 2 items to 2024. And so can you go to the next slide? So this is a monthly cash flow projection for 2023. And as you can see, going into the April into September is a negative cash flow. So we're just using the $1 million to mitigate negative cash flow. And the next slide. Okay, so we already covered this. And then, so this is the cash flow forecast with the loan. So even though we would be cutting it pretty close in Q3, we would still have $246,000 in the general fund. And then in Q4, it pops back up. And so we estimated loan payments to be about $127,000, and this is just an estimate. So this is what it looks like with the loan. Next slide. And this is another chart outlining that. We can move forward. Any questions that you have? I know it's really fast.
Anybody have any questions? James, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a question on the revenue, incoming revenue. Is there any chance that fluctuates?
No, it doesn't fluctuate, but we get our revenue in chunks at different times of the year. So we get one in early spring and then early fall, correct? And then November. So we get 3 chunks.
And what is the revenue source?
So it's you said source, sorry.
Yeah, what is the source of revenue? Where are we getting our revenue from?
Property tax and interfund contributions. And then we have $400,000 in grant money.
And is there any chance that over the next couple of years that could be jeopardized?
Not that we see, no.
So there's no way that the property tax source could decrease. Is that correct?
No, it's only going to go up.
Mhm.
Our property taxes are determined by a 5-year levy that's good through 2025, which would be a year after this proposed loan period ends. So the entire term of this loan period, what you're seeing with the monthly cash flow projections is what we expect is going to happen. There shouldn't be any reason for that to change.
Okay, so we can bank that the $1 million can be paid back without any debt.
Mhm.
Jeannie, go ahead.
I only have a comment is that having to take out $1 million loan may mean that we run out of projects that we can afford to do. So I think I'm fine taking out the loan. But it appears to me that we're gonna burn through our funds sooner than we would like. And so our future projects, we're gonna have to be very judicial about. And that it was just a comment that I wanted to make on that.
So I had a question about the $127,000 loan payment. Is that what we anticipate that taking this $1 million loan is going to cost our fund balance?
Yes, so the
Correct.
127,500 is principal, and then I estimated a 2% interest rate, just to be on the higher side, just as a guess, so that we know we can afford it.
So I know the numbers on the slide. So there's a chance that we would be in deficit without the loan.
I'll pull it back up 1 second.
Right.
So if we do all of the tier 2 items next year, we're going to have about a $370,000 deficit in September. That will immediately be corrected from property tax revenues in October, but there's going to be 1 month at the end of Q3 where we are in red. So this loan is not because we can't afford this project long term. It's just to help with cash flow issues because we receive our tax income revenue in chunks instead of spread out throughout the entire year evenly.
So, I mean, again, playing devil's advocate and being oppositionally defiant because I can, for the sake of argument, we don't take the loan and we defer some projects to 2024. It would save us the $120,000, but are the projects that we have slated for 23 important enough and critical enough that we need to burn through money for interest versus just deferring it for another year?
Correct. So we could put off the Health and Wellness Center HVAC and roof replacement until 2024. The HVAC units there, even though they are not as efficient as we would like, they are still working. And also the roof probably would last one more year. There might be some patching we need to do, but we would get through another season, deferring another year. The senior center building is not in the same condition. It's on its last leg. We need to move forward with the senior center building HVAC and roof and envelope. So if we were to defer a project, the health and wellness roof and HVAC, which I guess it worked out nicely that we decided to tear those two apart. We could defer those if the board wishes so.
I just wanted to have just options out there. I mean, if speed is what we need, then we have to get the loan. But if it's possible and it would be more prudent to just push a project back a year, I don't like the idea of using levy money just to pay off a loan because we want to get things done faster when we know we have until 2025 on the levy. But on the other hand, I know that there are projects that are time critical. So I'm trying to weigh the importance of speed versus, we still have to be judicious with this money. So I mean,
The other thing I'd mention for the board to consider is that we're looking at about $20,000 in interest. It's not that high. And we are currently dealing with inflation and rising costs of labor. So I would invite the board to consider the potential that even though we could delay these projects until 2024 in the interest of not taking this loan out, there is a strong possibility that we will end up paying more to do the projects later than we would if we did them now and just took the hit on the interest payment.
so Barbara, you said $20,000. What is the $127,000 loan payment then?
The $127,000 includes principal.
Okay.
So that's going to be the principal plus the loan interest. The total interest is only going to be about $20,000 at 2%.
Thank you. I was confused by the 127 versus the 20.
It's a lot less than that.
Right. Well, I was going to say $127,000 interest on $1 million is a garbage interest rate.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Okay. I have to ask these questions because I think it's important that we just, we consider the angles here, and be thoughtful about the process. So, Jeannie, go ahead.
So we're talking about $1 million loan, but in practicality, we're talking about a $300,000 loan. Is that, am I understanding you correctly?
We're using $1 million loan to cover a deficit of about $350,000. That being said, staff would advise against a smaller loan of say $500,000, which would keep us in the black for this entire term. But due to overages and increasing costs, there's a potential that these projects will go up slightly. We would also have no room for reactive maintenance if we needed to do something with, say, the crawl space, if we just took enough to cover our deficit in September. So staff recommend a larger than strictly necessary loan.
Okay, so my apologies for being confused here. For the $1 million loan, what is it that we're paying on interest? What when we pay back the $1 million, what is our $1 million plus? What's the plus that we would be paying back?
It's about $20,000.
Okay.
And our interest, our calculated interest is actually a little bit inflated. It's typically either 0.5% or 1.5%. but we calculated our payment at a 2% just to make sure that, you know, we would be able to make that, and, you know, in our projection, we could make that payment
Okay,
in our cash flow projection. So
Okay.
it is inflated, but yeah, it's about $28,000 on top
Okay.
of the 1 million. Mhm.
when I was first hearing numbers, I was hearing 100 and some odd $1,000 for the privilege of having this loan. And I thought, oh my goodness. So we're spending over $100,000 to cover 300 and some odd $1,000. That seemed like a huge penalty, but $20,000 is livable.
All right, James, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it chair. I just wanted to clarify. So if I'm understanding correctly, if we borrow $1 million, we're only going to pay $27,000 or $28,000 back.
No, we would pay $20,000 additionally so we would pay them their $1 million back with the $20,000 of interest.
Okay, so where did what's the $100,000?
The $127,000 is the payment, our monthly payment for the 1-year term of the loan.
Okay, so to be clear, if I borrow $1 million, I need to give you back $1 million plus 28,000.
Yes.
I'm not going to give you $1 million plus 100,000 in principal plus 28,000.
No. It's only the $1 million plus the 2% in interest that we calculated, which could be less when we actually get the loan. But
Okay, so I'm thoroughly confused. I don't know why the number 100,000 was thrown out there in the first place. Is that just a number that was mistakenly said, or?
No, the 127,000 is the monthly payment when we're paying back the loan.
Quarterly, not monthly. Our monthly
So it's a
payment
monthly
payment is $42,500, which goes towards both the principal and the interest.
Okay, so
Primarily.
we're the 100,000 that's paid over the course of the year is actually $100,000 is paying down the $1 million. So you're not giving them $1 million at the end of the year. Is that correct? You're giving them you're giving them 900,000 plus, right? The 27,000, because you've just paid 100,000 in payments, right? So you're giving them $900,000 at the end of the year, and rolled into the 100,000 that you've made throughout the year is 27,000, 28,000 in interest. So we're going to write them a check for 900,000 at the end of the year, correct?
No, there would be monthly installments paid towards the principal and towards the interest on the principal each month over the course of 2 years.
Okay, so it is costing us 128,000.
No,
It's 42,000 a month, I heard you say, right?
yes. Over 24
And
months.
127 quarterly.
Yes.
What you got there, Joe?
That it was 42,000 a month and 127 quarterly, I think was the payments.
Okay, well, as long as my numbers are right in my head, that we're only paying back the $1 million plus the 27,000, then that's a much easier thing to digest. The other question would be, have we ever borrowed money from the county? Has the NPRSA ever borrowed money from the county previously? And have they deferred the interest payments for us previously?
No, in 2021, the board approved the staff to move forward with the King County loan, and we did not move. It didn't happen. There was a resolution and everything. So this will be the first time.
Okay, is it worth maybe checking with them to see if they'll defer?
I can make that request. I will be presenting to them on October 26th, I believe.
Thank you.
Jeannie, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand. So for over 2 years, we're making two kinds of payments. We're making a monthly payment and a quarterly payment. Am I understanding you correctly?
I think that's the confusion is
Yeah.
one projection had it quarterly and then this cash flow projection has it, the loan payment listed as monthly. So there's only one payment and it is a monthly payment of $42,500 per month for the term of 2 years.
2 years. Okay, and so I guess my question is, I should know this number off the top of my head. How much do we bring in a year on property taxes?
It is a little bit under 2 million,
I think
1.7.
so.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second to double check, but I can tell you what we're making this year.
Mm. And just a little background, the only reason why we have this much of a, I guess, this much money in our general fund currently is because we deferred projects for 2022 into 2023.
We expect a revenue of about 1.5 million each year from taxes. We make a little bit more than that due to some interlocal contributions. And we're going to have a good chunk more that we take in at the beginning of the year when our grant applications are processed and we can finalize the transfer of the accrued interest in the bond fund.
Okay, so I'm sitting here with my calculator. So let's say it's 175. And we're paying back. So we're basically spending about a third of what's coming in for the next 2 years back as loan repayments. Is my math correct?
Think of it as we're taking a loan against a third of what our revenue in the next 2 years is going to be.
Okay. Well, either way we are hobbled. And we're gonna, it looks like from what you're describing is we're going to have to get a lot tougher about and hard-nosed about what the projects are that we can do over the next 2 years. If we do either way, if we take this loan or we don't take this loan, we're going to have to be hard-nosed about what our future projects are going to be, which is, you know, is the way, is reality, and we'll do what we can. But it seems like we're going to have to give ourselves a little bit of a reality, a harsher reality check. I'm not inferring that we haven't been realistic. It looks like we're just going to have to tighten it up some more. But maybe I'm mistaken there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 2-year term on $1 million loan, which is a loan against a levy that the people have approved. I think that we have to have a good argument, I guess, for the public as to why we're taking a loan when they've given us a levy already. I think maybe we could do 2 things at once. We could take the loan, but also I would say go through and look at, you know, where we could defer if possible. I don't want to necessarily hold that term for 2 years if we don't have to. If we could have it for the first year to get us through some of the projects that we want to get completed, but you know, maybe start, you know, cutting as well, not cutting, but deferring a little bit. I would be in favor of that 2-pronged approach of, you know, have the money because we'll need it, but pay it back when we kind of get everything figured out. I agree with Jeannie. This is definitely a bit of a reality check about, you know, going, you know, almost $600,000 in deficit or $370,000 in deficit. It is eye-opening. So you know, there are no good answers here, obviously, but if the board is comfortable, isn't probably not the right word, but if the board is comfortable with the loan, you know, we could move forward, but also with sort of in the back of our minds, we need to do a better job of really understanding what our income stream is and when it is, and make some of our expenditures, you know, based upon that, knowing, because we know when we get our money. So I think that's you know, we should know better, I think. So, you know, as a board, we can look at some of this and come up with some creative ideas for scheduling. Go ahead, Christine, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Oh, am I still muted? No, okay. So I just want to put out there that if the board does not feel comfortable with going out for the loan, like I just want to reiterate, there is not a huge, I guess, priority-wise, like we have at the senior center, where we have a failing HVAC system, we have a failing roof, we have a failing envelope. Yes, we would like to get the health and wellness building, you know, HVAC, a better efficient and effective HVAC units there, and we want to make sure that we have a good roof put on during this current levy. But if we do need to defer, we do have that space too. So I just want to make that pretty apparent and clear that it is not a super high level, like reactive moment where we have to get this done in 2023.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
So a question. How critical is this? Can we put this decision off until November, when we could get maybe Sarah and Rod to weigh in on this?
No, I have to present to the King County, forgot what their board is called, but I have to present to them they have a cutoff date of October 26th. So I have to present to them to get funding for 2023.
Nathan, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one other, just kind of from the tenant perspective on one of the reasons that we liked the idea of deferring the envelope project out of this year and combining it into this big kind of mega project. Because what that does is that if we piecemeal out the projects, then we continue to experience escalating costs as projects move further into the future. And also the disruption to seniors is quite substantial into our programming. So this we saw as an opportunity to package, you know, all the disruptions into one construction season that made the most sense, and not have to keep everything under construction and moving over several different years for these big projects. And so while that concentrates the expenditures into next year, having a cash flow option from King County seemed like it would be a responsible kind of public policy way to move forward, to kind of take advantage of getting work done, avoiding price escalations, and then minimizing disruptions to the users of the facility. So just a little more context as you're kind of weighing the pros and cons of this option.
James, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So something that comes to mind would be, if we approve you to move forward and present to King County, we don't necessarily need to take the funding, is that correct? The loan, correct? You need to present now, but if we decide, the board decides that they don't want to move forward with it, we don't have to, is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I would probably, yeah, I wouldn't think they would force us to take it.
I would expect there's some sort of contract
Yeah.
that has to be signed by both parties.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, so if we don't,
to do that.
if you present to them, then the board would have to agree to the contract, correct?
Mhm.
So that would buy us some additional time. And I think I'm hearing other board members that are hesitant, that maybe want some additional time. And I also know that we're missing several board members that have not weighed in on this. And I would love to hear from them on their opinion of this as well. So I leave it to the chair, but to me, I just have a sense that, you know, if we could present, at least get it on the docket or whatever for I think the 26th was the date. that would give us some additional time for this board to reconvene and potentially hear from the other board members.
Yeah, I appreciate the clarity that you provided there. I do note that there are 4 of us here. We barely constitute a quorum. For something that I think is this big of an expenditure, I think we really do need to convene the entirety of the board. And if it's possible for us to have, again, that seems to be the theme of tonight, we need more options. We don't want to have to make a decision with sort of a bare bones quorum here. So I think if we can go to King County, do the proposal, and then if at our November meeting, if the county has something available to us, or if it's in January, I would like us to still have the final talk about whether it is something that the entire board would like to have moving forward. And I would love to, do whatever we can to get as many board members on this call, especially those on the county council. I think that they have a perspective about this loan program that would be invaluable to this conversation. And right now I feel we're flying a little bit blind. So on the one hand, I understand the need for this loan. On the other hand, there's a whole lot of things I don't know. So if we could, to Vice Chair's perspective here, if we could approve the process of going forward to the county and then have it come back to us for final approval, I think the board would be slightly more comfortable with it. That's if the board feels differently on that one, I'm just sort of translating from James's eloquence to, my little kludge here.
No, I agree. I like that plan.
So do we want to add something in this motion to clarify the board's position that we're not accepting it, that we're merely requesting the loan, and that we will come back at a later date to approve it? Do we want to add something like that to the motion? Or is it sort of assumed through the King County process?
I think you could just, Chair, I think you could just add the note at the bottom to be approved by final approval by board.
Okay. So then I think the recommended motion here should be to move to approve minute order R-22-02, requesting an interfund loan from King County, subject to approval by the NPRSA Board. Does that seem fair?
I'll move the recommended action. Yep.
All right. All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? And abstentions? All right. So I look forward to seeing what King County has to say, and then when we can convene the entire board, we can have a even more robust discussion. All right, future meetings, November 16th. Is that going to be our yearly, our budget for next year? Is that our big budget meeting? So we've had sort of, and I don't want to call anybody out because everybody is so busy and running around like crazy. It's incredibly important that we have a full quorum at that meeting, not just 4, but the entirety of the NPRSA board. So if we can't make that happen, if we see that there are going to be some absences, I think we need to think about some alternative times to be made available so that we can have a full board discussing the topics that are ahead of us, especially in November. I don't know how you do that. You send nice emails and ask nicely, but I want to be flexible and understanding of the different jurisdictions that we represent and how busy we all are. But I also think that we all definitely need to convene and meet for these discussions. So November 16th is on my calendar. It's going to be a doozy of a meeting. I imagine you guys are working very hard on your budget, but we as a board probably need to do a better job of attending in regularity. I think it's hard when there's 4 of us. We're deferring a lot of our decisions because we want to hear input from others. So perhaps some of us could reach out to a board member and ask for them to be here for that next meeting, because we have a lot of really critical monetary and budgetary concerns that we need to discuss. And that's my soapbox, and I'm going to jump down off of it.
I would ask in my capacity as clerk that all of the board members, please do what you can to lean on the other board members to make sure they're here, especially for budget meetings, because those require a public hearing notice. and that makes it much more difficult to reschedule. So we can't be quite as flexible in terms of just push it out 1 week. It has to get pushed out 2 just because of the time to print the advertisement.
James, please go ahead.
Thank you. So it looks like I'm free that night, so I have it on my calendar already. Hopefully, Board Member Marshall and Board Member Zorns can confirm tonight that they can attend. I will, once the notice goes out, Barbara, I will make a point to reach out to the other 3 board members whom are not here tonight personally, and maybe the other board members on the call can do the same. Chair, we can all do that in our own capacities, to reach out to them and say how important it is to be here. Because I agree with you, Chair, it is critically important that those voices are at the table, especially King and Snohomish County, whom are missing tonight. So I think it's critically important that we get them here.
And then Barbara, I was going to ask, in terms of quorum, is reaching out to more than 2 members of the board just to discuss attendance in the meeting, is that going to be some sort of serial meeting violation that we need to be concerned about? Okay, just trying to be open. I don't want to. I don't want to create a serial
As
communication.
long as you don't discuss anything, you just tell them to please come, then that wouldn't be a violation.
All right, just a friendly reminder of OPMA for everybody. Sorry, Christine, go right ahead.
No, sorry, I have to go backwards a little bit. I was just looking over the Executive Finance Committee's requirements for me to present to them for the King County loan. And it looks like I have to have a signed resolution by our board to present as part of our application process. So I wouldn't be able to present to them without a signed resolution. Sorry.
Give me 1 second to check the resolution and see exactly what it requires, because there might still be a way to make that work with what the board approved.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're good.
Okay, so the resolution says the board officially requests King County consider the NPRSA's interfund loan application. There is not something in the resolution that seems to how I'm reading it, that seems to obligate us to accept it once the final terms are negotiated. The resolution is just a formal request that those contract documents be put together, from what I can tell.
Joe, you had a real live human hand raised. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible or not, but and I forgot about maybe Councilmember Dembowski, but if at all possible, maybe we could even get in a meeting before the required October, maybe another quick meeting of us to get more people here to consider it, if that's a possibility. If Barbara's reading of it is not satisfactory to the group, or in conjunction with it, or whatever.
James, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the language as considered versus approved. So I'm satisfied if you were to sign this, Chair.
So to be clear, just because we ask for the county for this, we ask the county for this loan, they cannot obligate us to accept it. We can ask for it and then pull back. It doesn't strike me as the type of process that would be obligating us to take money. But let's to play it out. Let's say, for the sake of argument, we ask for the loan, we get it, and we can't say no. Could we give all of that money back with a minimum expenditure of interest?
I saw nothing that said we couldn't pay more than the monthly payment, so we could make additional payments against principal, I believe.
Okay, and there would be no penalty with that. There would be no required minimum interest payment.
That would depend on the exact contract language of the loan.
Yeah, I didn't see any of that verbiage in the application process overview.
So to Joe's question of meeting again in October to try and get more people up to speed before we go in front of the county. Is that something we would like to investigate as a board?
I think that the question, it's not really a problem, but the question would be, can you get input from the other three? How much information are they going to need? Are they going to be able to attend?
Right.
And so I guess hearing what was just commented on, this is not the contract. So you're going to actually have to sign, as the chair, a contract binding the NPRSA. This is just to get them to consider creating a contract. So again, I still stand, I'm okay with consideration. Not okay with the contract, but this is not a contract. And Joe, you're an attorney, you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, in this, I don't know enough about, right, even the process application or what it says or anything like that. I would hope it wouldn't bind anybody, but man, I don't know. I mean, what is the presentation going to be? What does it look like? I don't know the process at all. Personally, I was leaning, in favor of the loan. I like the considerations of the Nathan gave. I thought those were persuasive. But anyway.
Go ahead, Christine.
So I'm reading the application, which is needs to be signed. I'm assuming by Chair Beth Campbell, but on the bottom of the application, which the instructions say need to be submitted at the time of presentation, is that by signing below, the district's representative is accepting the terms of the interfund loan approved by the Executive Finance Committee. And then it just goes through the county. King County may not approve an extension or modification of the original loan agreement, reserves the right to make the district's warrant interest bearing at any time. If the district believes it will exceed any of the terms approved by King County, they must notify King County and submit the addendum in the original loan request immediately. So it looks like by signing the application, you're accepting the terms of the loan agreement. So this is under a section that says loan agreement.
Christine, do you have that document handy? Because that was not included with the packet.
Yes, it's in, I gave it to you, but I will forward it
Let me
again.
pull it up and I'll show it to everybody. Where is it exactly?
It's in the SharePoint drive under the King County loan folder. And it is it's right under the PowerPoint presentation. There were 3 documents that I sent to you that are in there.
There's the application. Right? No, that's the PowerPoint presentation. Here it is. Okay. Let me make sure I'm sharing this.
Yep, we can see it.
We can see
Okay,
it.
cool.
Yeah. Are we sharing the language, Barbara? I couldn't see anything.
Sorry, hang on. Let me do this and make sure my share is working. So the 3 things here are: if the district believes it will exceed any of the terms, it must notify, submit an addendum. King County may or may not approve an extension or modification of the agreement. And then by signing below, the district's representative is accepting the terms of interfund loan approved by the Executive Finance Committee. That, I believe, refers to not the terms of the actual contract, potentially, but rather the terms of the policy that, that the Executive Finance Committee has adopted governing interfund loans. That is included in your packet.
So can we get some clarity from King County before we sign this? I mean, I'd like to know a little bit more information before we, we commit on the assumption that this is what it means. So can we, get a call into King County and then delay any signature I need to make on here until we know what the term actually is?
Correct. I will make that happen.
Is there a way to do a conditional motion?
Yes, I was going to say, I think we need to go back to the previous motion about the King County loan, and then reopen the discussion and make an amendment contingent upon further information based on questions about the loan terms, or the grant terms, not the loan terms. So we can amend our agenda to move backwards.
Revisiting a question. We should be able to do, I think. Robert Rules of Order would still let us do that. Give me.
I'd like to get clarity on that. I'm sorry, Chair. Just want to make sure that we're following the proper protocol. So we've already had a motion, a second, approve something.
Yes.
So I don't know how we amend something that we've already approved. Are we maybe we're making a new motion? I don't know. I just want to make sure we clarify that.
Yeah. Is it a motion to amend?
Yes, I believe it would be a motion to amend the previous motion.
Okay.
I believe. Okay, so someone should. Sorry? Did someone say something? Or is that just echo?
I think it was a feedback.
Okay, someone should move for the previous question on the King County loan application. And if that is seconded and voted in favor of, then we can reopen the discussion of it, even though the motion has already made and passed.
Is it inappropriate for the chair to make a motion, or do I need it from the floor?
And you should entertain that motion.
Okay. I would entertain a motion about calling for the previous question on the King County loan.
I moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. As it cannot be debated or amended, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstain. Okay, so going back to the motion to accept the King County loan. We would like to amend the language of the motion. So I would like to I would entertain a motion to amend the King County loan approval to be contingent upon approval of terms with King County. Is that what we're looking for? Is the terms of acceptance, or do we want clarity on that?
I think, Christina, my question with this is, and Christine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're looking for a motion that would tell us that it would give us a set of terms that would be agreeable to the board under which we could proceed with this application. I think. Is that what we're asking, Christine?
Yeah, I think that if we're able to move forward so that I can at least present, which I think we're there, we just need to, make this amendment to the motion.
So I think the motion should be amended to approve applying for the King County loan contingent upon the application not being binding, I think is what the board is asking. So that would mean that if the application is not binding, then Christine can go ahead through the application process. If the application is binding, then we would not proceed.
Well phrased.
Okay, so then how about this? I would entertain an amended motion to apply for the King County loan contingent on it, the loan or contingent to the application not being binding.
I have to throw a wrinkle in here, Chair. I'm sorry.
No, please wrinkle away.
So if it is binding, then we may want to at least give you the opportunity to hear from the other 3 council members, just
Mhm.
in case they wanted to move forward, right? So.
Right.
Um,
Do we want to amend that? Do we want to amend the amended motion to allow for, if the motion is binding, to set a special meeting to discuss with the remaining board members?
yes, I would,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So the main motion, which is an amended motion, just to make sure everybody is as confused as I am. The amended motion is to apply for the loan contingent on that application not being binded. The amendment to that motion is that if the application is binding, we would defer and confer a special meeting of the NPRSA board to have a full determination of whether or not we move forward. Does that sound wrinkly?
I
No.
move the recommended action.
All right, so we have a motion on the motion and the amended motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and 2 seconds to apply for the King County loan contingent on the application not being binding, with the additional stipulation, if it is binding, we convene a special meeting of the board of the NPRSA board to discuss whether or not we would like to accept the loan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstentions? All right. We did it. Wow. This has been quite a meeting. I would like to, thank everybody so much for being patient on this one. This has been really hard for some reason. I think we managed to suss out what we really wanted to talk about with that motion. So, with any luck, we will have some flexibility from King County, but if not, perhaps when we talk to our board members about the meeting in November, we might want to suggest that there may indeed be an early October meeting to discuss King County, just to cover all the bases and make sure everybody is informed. Oh, is that it? Is everybody tired? I'm pretty sure that I know the answer to that one.
I'd just like to,
Everybody-
for the good of the order, just like to say, Chair, thank you so much.
Oh.
Long meeting. You held it all together tonight. Amazing what you did. A lot of tough questions answered. I would say that just the sheer fact that we don't meet often means these meetings can be pretty robust. So it may be that in the future, we may want to start meeting a little bit more often, because some of these topics get kind of meaty, but you did an amazing job tonight. So I just wanted to give you hats off to you, Chair.
Well,
Nice
I
job,
think-
Chair.
I think that this board is only as good as the sum of its parts. So I congratulate all of you for being so supportive and, everybody taking their time. And, I appreciate Christine and Barbara answering our very tough questions and helping us muddle through. And I concur that there may be an opportunity for us to meet a little bit more frequently, particularly if the loan does go through. I think we would have to show our due diligence on that. And because we are all tired, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion. At the same time, Barbara and Christine, thank you so much for all your hard work and dedication. It's amazing.
Barbara, Christine.
Yes, thank you.
everybody. We'll
And
see
good
you-
night, everyone.
We'll see you either in October or November. Bye, everybody.
Good night.